Okay, this is an exciting week for me because my very first book comes out tomorrow, probably my only book. It's called And the Good News Is, Lessons and Advice from the Bright Side. It's an autobiography that traces my journey from Wyoming to the White House. Chris Darwalt of Fox News called it Little House on the Prairie meets the West Wing.
Nice.
But it's also filled with career advice, stories about what goes on behind the scenes right here on The Five, and more. The producers did a great job. Here's a peek at what's inside my book.
Hey.
The day I learned about becoming the next White House press secretary was the day I planned to resign from the White House. It was the summer of 2007. I'd been deputy press secretary for 2.5 years and with the Bush administration since right after 9/11. I served during a time of 2 wars, Supreme Court nominations, natural disasters, a major financial crisis, and more. I didn't want to admit that I was tired, but one day that August I decided it was time. I pulled the president's counselor, Ed Gillespie, aside. But to my surprise, he needed to tell me something first. Tony Snow, the current press secretary, was going to be leaving to focus on his health and family. He'd been fighting a valiant battle against cancer, one he sadly lost less than a year later. President Bush had chosen me to succeed him. It was bittersweet, but an overwhelming honor and an opportunity I knew I couldn't turn down.
I've chosen Dana Perino. She can handle you all. What I look for in somebody like Dana is somebody who can walk in that Oval Office and give me sound judgment and good advice.
You never would have picked me out of a crowd and said, she'll be White House press secretary one day. And that's what makes America so great. One day you're sitting on a barnyard fence thinking you'll never leave home, and the next, you're sitting on Marine One with the President of the United States. God bless America, indeed. There was never a day when I didn't love my job, even on those more challenging ones with reporters. I traveled with President Bush at home and abroad to Africa, Europe, and beyond, and even got to meet the Queen. It was the opportunity of a lifetime.
Would you do this job again?
Oh gosh, absolutely. I would. But I wouldn't do it for anybody else. In January 2009, I felt like everything was ending. And it was. But so much was beginning. I was very busy in my post-White House life, launching a business, and I became a contributor on Fox News. Then, in 2011, while waiting for my bags after a trip to Nigeria, I got an unexpected call. Fox was trying out a temporary show called The Five.
Hello, everyone. 5 o'clock on the East Coast, and this is The Five.
4 years later, and you know the rest. It took a while for me to come out from behind my press secretary shell to just be myself. But soon enough, I've gone from spelling out words like sex.
It's not because they don't feel like having sex.
And hell.
There would be HE double hockey sticks to pay.
To becoming the first and only woman on The Five to get bleeped.
You want to look at a politicized Justice Department, you look at the one that I inherited, all right?
And this message from our sponsors.
I've never laughed so hard in a job.
Yes. Violent mobs of teens have been tearing up.
Go ahead, you can do it.
I'm going to get fired.
Or gotten so fired up.
I don't know who you're protecting. Are you trying to protect President Obama?
No, I'm not trying to protect anybody.
I'm having a hot flash of anger.
And that's usually when the look comes out. I've been told I was born with that face. I'm so grateful to be a part of The Five. I got a brother I never wanted.
She pole vaults with a toothpick. She snowboards on a lentil. She jet skis on a seahorse. And she shoots pool with a breadstick. It's Dana Perino. This is The Five.
And even made my family pet a part of the show. America's dog, Jasper.
Jasper made Valentines for these guys. Here's an example. One for you. Bob, for you. I thought you would like this one.
This show, folks, has been hijacked by this dog.
I don't know what's in store for the next chapter of my life. But the great news is, I'm not ready to turn the page on this one. So the producers put that together. Susan Wertheim is really amazing at editing, and I appreciate it. I think most of you have been able to read it. I'd love to know. Eric, you read it over the weekend?
I read it over the weekend and this morning. Honestly, it's a fantastic book. I loved the book. I made sticky notes. Probably one of my favorite stories is you and your sister riding with your grandfather. Right,
when we were
pull over.
On the ranch, when this was a story, I looked back and I thought this was kind of a defining moment for me when he was a a wonderful rancher, very successful in Newcastle, Wyoming, Leo Perino, and we were coming down a gravel road, and a horse had fallen through the cattle guard and broken its leg, and he had to shoot it. And it was a moment where he tried to have me, protect my sister from seeing it.
The point was that you realized life was a little tougher than you
Yeah, and a theme through the book is that I've learned that strength and gentleness go hand in hand.
Can I throw one more? Yeah, strength. Yeah. I wrote that down. One of the other things is you weren't a Republican your whole life, but it was a process.
Yes, and I talk about how I ended up. One of the things the book says is, how did somebody like me, who grew up with that background and no political connections, end up working at the White House, and then how I got to be here. So there's some practical advice in there. I think it's good for young people in particular and graduates. And Julie read it a while ago, and I appreciated your thoughts.
No, I did, and it was wonderful. And not only does it just your graciousness and what makes you a wonderful person come across, and it really does, but for me as a Democrat, what was so striking to me is all of us who are, especially on the other side of the aisle, have images of George Bush, President Bush, as this guy that, everybody has a preconception of any president. This actually made me truly appreciate him as a human being. He comes across as a wonderful man, and whether you agree or disagree with him on politics, I think you were so lucky to work for him, and it comes across that I know how grateful you were, and what a great fit with him.
There's a lot of stories, and I think it does provide a missing piece of the puzzle of the history that hasn't been written yet, which is the personal reflections of staff, and taking you behind the scenes with stories you've never heard before, and they weren't covered in the news because nobody was there. It was just my colleagues and I, and actually I dedicate the book to my Bush administration colleagues, and I'll be in D.C. on Thursday night with a party with them. And Greg also, he's in the acknowledgments because you helped me with the writing, which I appreciated. You didn't hate it, right?
I was surprised. I love the section about your time in the Bangles when you played tambourine. Nobody knew that you dated Idi Amin in the 90s. That whole chapter on the relationship is incredible. I urge you to buy the book just for I didn't realize what a great guy he was at times, but also what a monster.
And he didn't cannibalize her, which was fantastic.
Yeah, it was nice. And then you killed that man in Arizona because he was whistling during breakfast.
Yeah, well, I just wanted this to be a really candid look at my life.
Yes. Yeah. It was, you warts and all. I was shocked.
Don't worry, she has immunity from prosecution for all of that. But I think it's great, too, Dana, because you still do all of these great things in your life, volunteer with Mercy Ships, Minute Mentoring, and really trying to share with other women some of the, I guess the secrets of your success and not being able to get out there and do something on behalf of other people and give back, especially since I know
you know what's great about it, and I write about this, is that when I first was transitioning from my post-White House life to here, I was worried that I would be cut off from doing a lot of those other things, and quite the opposite is that Fox has allowed me to actually become the fullest expression of myself. And for the first time in my life, I am paid to speak only for myself. For a long time, I was everybody else's spokesperson. I still like to be everybody else's spokesperson.
Well, sometimes you have to help us
as you know, but I do that for myself. So thanks,
Eric and Greg.
The pictures are amazing. You have amazing pictures, 2 sets of pictures.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't believe you put that stuff in there.
The best one is the kid.
It was difficult to make that decision, but I urge you to buy the book because you never know what you might see inside. All right, up next, some powerful performances last night at the Academy of...